Welcome to 3D Printing News. I'm your host, Mike, and I try to keep everybody up to date with the latest happenings in 3D printing every single Friday at 6 a.m. Arizona time. And we have a lot to cover, guys. Formnext was this week, so there's been a lot of printer unveils. We got additional information on things people have been waiting for. Notably, right, Bambu Lab was waiting to unveil their H2C. You had Prusa with the Bontech INDX. So let's go ahead and get into it because there's a lot to cover. So Prusa, of course, has been teasing the Bontech INDX for their Core 1 3D printer, and we finally got a look at what it looked like, the price, and everything. So the cost of 4 tool heads is actually going to be $499, and then for 8 tool heads, it's going to be $699. So not too much of a difference to get those additional 4 tool heads. You're looking at $50 a head. Now they did say that the additional development for the Core 1L is coming, and that one's going to have the capability to go up to 10 tool heads. So there's a lot coming with that. There was also on a stream of faux hammers, he actually had someone from Prusa said that there's speculation, or not speculation, I guess, that they're working on potentially doing 12 tool heads for the Core 1L. And this is the first time I've actually kind of gotten excited about a 3D printer from Prusa, because if you're looking at the Core 1L at 1800 by itself, it doesn't really seem like one of those 3D printers to like get me on board, honestly. Like, yeah, they've been touting like the even print bed and all of that. But when you add the Bontech INDX, and if let's just say it is, I don't know, $1,000 for 10 tool heads, it's probably cheaper if you're looking at the price of $50 a tool head. From the Core 1 pricing, you're looking at, what is that, $800. So if you can get me into a Core 1L at $2,600, $2,700, and then boom, you have 10 tool heads, that gets me a little bit more excited, I feel like. And I think that's a pretty good option there for that many tool heads. What do you guys think about that? Now, I will go on to note with the Bontech INDX and kind of showing off this system they had, of course, right? It kind of reminded me of a product that we've been kind of talking about a lot recently when you look at it. In addition, Prusa is actually getting exclusivity rights. So they did have a blog post. You can go ahead and read it. I don't want to sit here and spend all this time reading the blogs. I'm just here to give you guys the brief news, depending on how much news, right? Sometimes I'll sit here and read a blog, sometimes I won't. But one thing that I wanted to actually note about the Bontech INDX is the exclusivity and kind of the way they worded it on the Prusa blog. Because while we are the exclusive integrator of the INDX, so that just kind of, to me already, it's like, okay. Bontech will also bring it to the Voron 3D printers and make it available for 3D printer modders and hackers, which both of our companies love to support. So the Bontech INDX system does seem like it's going to be available. Well, it is going to be available for the Voron, the custom builds, but I don't know that they're necessarily going to like give it direct support for something like the SV08 from Sovol, things like that. I think you're going to have to figure out workarounds, and maybe Sovol will come out with something. They say, hey, look, here's an update if you want to download it. You know, they have all the stuff, I believe, on the GitHub for this system. So keep that in mind depending on what your plan is for this. Now, they have already sold some on Bontech's website. It was a Founders Edition and they sold out pretty much immediately. They've been gone for like the last 2 or 3 days. And that came out, you had to put like a $150 deposit. Now, all this does have a plan to come out in Q1 of 2026 with the Core 1L, I think they said in the middle half of 2026. So hopefully there's no more delays with the Bontech system. Them actually taking pre-orders does seem to bode well with them actually meeting their guideline of Q1 2026 this time around. In other news, their biggest competitor when it comes to this is the Bambu Lab H2C right now. Now, this was kind of one of those where I thought it would go on sale, and then I started rethinking that, but they did actually put the Bambu Lab H2C up for sale when it originally was announced. I believe that was on November 18th. Now, the H2C, they showed off the Vortex system. It's all the same stuff that we pretty much kind of expected, and the same concerns that everyone really has. Now, it is slower than that of the Bontech INDX, where let's just say, for example, these are kind of the time frames that I can think of off the top of my head. The Snapmaker U1 takes about 15 seconds for a tool change, and these might not be, but in comparison, and then you're looking at the Bontech INDX, maybe it's like 20 seconds, so it's like a little bit, you know, slower, or yeah, a little bit slower than the U1. Now guys, again, these are not like concrete numbers. This is just an example. But then you're looking at the H2C that maybe takes a minute or two. Or so it's quite a bit slower. It's because it's got to retract from the AMS system, put it all the way down that PTFE tube. And there's not really like a workaround to this because there's only one PTFE tube that is actually going into the printer and then into the printhead. So they would actually have to figure out some way to have all of the AMSs go directly into like one location, right? Like there's only one PTFE tube on an AMS system. So it doesn't really seem like without coming out with a new AMS that actually has 4 PTFE tubes that can feed directly into the printhead, there's not really like a way around the speed of the H2C. So again, I don't think there's a way they can speed it up. However, it does seem to do everything that it was expected to do. There's a little bit of purging. It saves quite a bit on the purge time. You can actually see here, this is an example of the Raptor. They're giving kind of like the print times, like the differences, and then also like the purge differences when it comes to this. So it is one of those things. So it looks like as far as compared to the H2S, it's about 42% faster, at least on this specific model. In some of the other models, it was a lot faster than that. But you can see where it really makes up the difference is you have 532 grams of waste on the H2C, and then you have 3,917 on the H2S. And then if you look at the H2D, of course, it also has a little bit less because it only has 2 nozzles. But if you're looking at that of like the Snapmaker or the Bontech INDX, there's like virtually 0, right? You're probably less than 100 grams, less than 50 grams. So there's a pretty big difference even when it comes to waste and the different types of systems. And now you'll even see like on the Prusa blog that they've actually kind of poked fun at this. Now that's not to say that there's not a place for the H2C. This is the only printer as of right now of the 3 that's actually in stock and available, or at least it would be shipping to you next month. I believe it's a pre-order for next month. They had a little bit of stock available. It did go live in the United States as well after being delayed. Like that very night, it still went live in the United States because it was waiting on the FCC certification. Same thing with the P2S that's actually available for sale now. Anyway, getting back to the point, some people have declared Bambu Lab the winner, some people have declared Prusa. And you know what? The real winner here is actually consumers. I actually did a poll and you guys agree with me. So these are the results of the poll that I've had up on the channel for the last few days. Again, I think it's consumers who are the real winners here. They give you a choice. You can choose this one, you can choose this one. Me personally, I love the Bambu Lab ecosystem, so I thought about even purchasing the H2C for a little bit, but I think I'm gonna hold off for now. The Core 1L has actually got me pretty excited to see that with the Bontech INDX, and we don't know what other major players are actually gonna come into the field within the next few months, and none of these are really readily available. I don't have $3,000 laying around to buy the H2C. So the H2C does come in at $2,400 for the base version, and then $2,800, I believe it was, for the ultimate bundle, which is what you need to actually take full advantage of the Vortex system. And it's actually $2,900, and it is estimated to ship around December 9th. Like I said, there's a short pre-order time period. Now, on top of this, the P2S came available as well, and pretty much right in line with all of the speculation. It came in right around the $550 mark and $799 for the combo. Notably, guys, you do get the AMS2 when you order any of the newer printers, so that's why, you know, it's priced where it's at. Now, I think this is an incredible price. This is my choice of printer for any beginner if you can swing it. Again, the P1S right now on that extreme discount is still a fantastic printer for the price until they refresh that kind of area, but I don't know if they're going to. I think they'll keep the P1S at their budget option. Now, just the last few notes about the H2C, I have seen some people talking about the heat bed heating unevenly. I do think this one's kind of blown out of proportion. There was no issues with the H2D and the H2S that people know about. I guess no one really, I didn't see it in any sort of the reviews for that. So is this a big deal? Who knows? And it seems like Bambu Lab's been on top of it, reaching out to the reviewer that had these. So it was on 3D Printing Nerd, and everyone's been kind of running with this and kind of poking fun at Bambu Lab for having a flagship with a messed up bed, but he even said on Twitter that he's going to do more tests. The next thing and the last thing is that these nozzles are proprietary when it comes to the Vortex system, and they do run about $40 a piece. So Are they going to be nozzles that you have to replace too often? He also brought up concerns about potential clogging, and then they basically go, they're done, and you can't really unclog them. Yeah, I don't know. I guess time will tell and we'll see. So that's why I'm still on the side of caution, waiting off. I don't even know if this printer's for me, honestly, again. But yeah, what do you guys think? I know a lot of you ordered them based on some of my previous videos I did earlier in the week. And the last thing from Bambu, they actually teased a new filament. It was like a metal filament. Now this says that it was 90% steel and about 10% plastic. The person who said, or at least took this picture and showed it off, said it was cold to the touch and it was printed on the P1S. To me, this looks crazy cool. I hope this is something they actually push forward, and hopefully it doesn't cost too much money. But this was one of the cool reveals from Formnext, and something that's kind of in their early testing stages. They said if there's enough traction, they may actually push this to market. And that's what Formnext is. They push a lot of stuff, like even BQ was printing some sort of latte art on the A1. Is that an actual product that will come out? Very doubtful, but there's cool stuff that pops up at Formnext all the time. So this is one of those things. And I thought I would mention it because I really want to see this actually come to fruition. Now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at is actually Anycubic. So as expected, Anycubic was showing off their Photon P1. You can actually pay $10 and get up to 43% off. It does say the MSRP of this 3D printer, or this resin 3D printer, is going to be $7.99, so you guys can do the math. There's a few things here, right, as well, like the heated vat, dual color capability on a consumer 3D printer for resin. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of different things. Industrial ball screw system, so there's a lot of improvements that they're actually making with the Photon P1. The real reveal right now for Anycubic was actually the Kobra X. You can actually see it looks like their answer, and it looks pretty identical to the Bambu Lab A1. It does look like a completely new tool head, where you actually have a four extruders in that tool head. It goes directly into there. How does it exactly work? I'm not too sure, but this does look like the answer to Bambu Lab's A1 that actually cuts down on a significant amount of waste. Is this going to take off? I'm not sure, but it looks like they've made some innovation in this space to eliminate waste. It looks like 2026 is just where we're at. Eliminating waste is key. Now on Fohammer's live stream he actually did, I went back and watched it, he showed there's very little amount of space in there that they actually have to purge when it comes to the Kobra X. And yeah, it just looks, it looks very interesting for a bed slinger, another probably lower end budget option that cuts down on waste significantly. Does this mean the end of the Kobra like 3, like in the V2 and all of that? Not really sure, because those use the Ace system, and I'm sure they're going to do one with the Ace 2 Pro, and this just has top mounted spools. But this was one of the cool reveals you saw from Anycubic coming soon. I don't know when it's actually going to come out. As far as like that, they didn't actually publicly release any sort of dates on that. Now they did also still show off the S1 Max, so keep in mind you only have a few more days to put down your deposit, the $50 deposit, to turn it into $100 for the S1 Max. One of the cool things I actually saw on Fohammer's stream as well is it actually has a side poop chute. This is the first 3D printer I've seen with a side poop chute. You know, they all have the slides to make it go around the side. So it's just one of those ease of use things, and it sounds like they're actually listening to consumers, and this actually looks really sleek. I like the dark gray, not that it really matters as far as function. And they did take a lot of improvements and add them into the Ace 2 Pro system. So the Ace 2 Pro actually seems like it's relatively improved, or significantly improved, over their original Ace system, which, you know, we all saw coming. Moving on, we did have Elegoo, and Elegoo was there with their Jupiter series. Now, there wasn't really any sort of concrete release date they gave for the Jupiter 2. This actually originally showed up at TCT earlier this year, and they originally said Q3, where we heard that before. But anyway, with the Jupiter 2, the rep that was on that live stream as well for Fohammer actually said in Q1. So I'm guessing maybe we'll see it in like February. All the information on this one is pretty much out there, right? It had like the over 300 millimeter build plate, has a 16K screen. You know, I think it was a 13 point something inch screen. Again, resin printer, the doors open like this, so it's relatively cool to see. Again, if you guys are waiting for that larger form factor 3D printer, it is there. One thing that they're actually coming out with is the Mercury wash and cure system that fits this build plate. It is just a giant barrel. Looks pretty cool. It actually has like these side sprayers, so it's like it's going through a car wash. And yeah, you kind of need something to contain all of that resin and wash your 3D prints, right? They just showed on the live stream as well, where you just kind of put it into the top. Same thing with your typical wash and cure systems, and it was separate. This system is only purely for washing. It doesn't actually cure the 3D print. I assume they're going to have something else for curing it relatively soon. I didn't see it on the live stream. Maybe I needed to do more research and I didn't see anything to cure that. But as far as curing prints, you can make your own cure box. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to set up some sort of washing system for 3D prints when it comes to resin. They were also there with the Centauri Carbon 2. They did confirm again that they're still working with people, that they're still working to get the AMS out for the Centauri Carbon. So I guess we'll see. I'll give them till the end of Q1, and then at that point, I'll kind of give up with the AMS system, but I guess we'll see if it comes out. Now, guys, I will say I'm not buying it if it does end up coming out because I have access already to so many multicolor 3D printers. However, if they were willing to send me one and do a review on it and let you guys or show you guys how it works, things like that, I would definitely be willing to make a video on it. But at this point, I just don't have a point to buy one myself. It's kind of a waste, right? I mean, we're moving on to the tool changer era and all that when it comes to covering new technologies. So unfortunately, that one will be a pass. But if they do send it to me, I will cover it, and then maybe I would just give it away to someone. So moving on, we had WonderMaker make the news. Now, if you guys are not familiar, WonderMaker actually came out with a new 4-tool head 3D printer. They had the WonderMaker ZR, which was just their base version. It had an AMS system similar to that of like FlashForge, I would say. And there was like, they were making some improvements on it, things like that. And then you also had the WonderMaker ZR Ultra, which was a 4-tool head 3D printer. So think of very similar to the Snapmaker. Now, it still has not come out yet. They were supposed to deliver the Ultra in August, and I have not seen anybody with an Ultra. I've seen a few people with a ZR. They pushed them to some content creators to get people to purchase them, but it's really kind of been stalled from what I can see when it comes to the Ultra. Now, why do I bring this up? Now, I have talked about that previously in how it was delayed, but I just want to give some background here. Now, there was a group of beta testers working with WonderMaker on this 3D printer. Basically, they were under NDA, they were giving them a lot of feedback. That's just the gist of things. Now, they came out with a statement basically saying, hey, look, we did all we could with WonderMaker. They're not taking our feedback into consideration, and we are just done with the project. We just don't see a point anymore. That's the summary of this thing. Now, what would you do if you were in WonderMaker's position and you just, this is what came out. It was a public statement basically saying all these things are wrong with your 3D printer. What do? Maybe, you know what, if you have a really good PR team, what you do is you say, hey, you know what, we're going to work with them. Let's hop on this. You know, let's get on a phone call with all these individuals. Let's take ownership. Let's say, hey, where was this communication breakdown? Let's really try to fix this and make sure that our customers are getting the product possible. Or what you can do is you can take route number 2 and you can double down on everything going on. I guess it wouldn't be a really double down, or you can take route number 2 and you can say, you know what? You're not resigning, you're fired. Yeah, that's what they did actually. They posted a statement saying that they are basically terminating their relationship with the beta team and they didn't follow through on their ask. And yeah, you guys can make your own judgments on that. You can go read the post and what happened, but it seems like the beta team terminated their relationship first. Yeah. And lastly, our last story of the day, this has been starting to make waves on X actually. There's rumors, or there has been rumors going out there that DJI actually bought into a 3D printer company. Now, if you don't know DJI, a lot of your favorite YouTubers use DJI mics. They're like the #1 drone or consumer drone maker. Now, they are based out of China, and there has been like some back and forth with the US government about potentially banning their drones here. You know, typical stuff that's been happening currently in today's world. Now, with all of that being said, there was rumors that they bought into a 3D print company. Now, DJI did confirm that they invested into a 3D print company, and people believe it is Elegoo. Now, Tom's Hardware also did put an article out there, so you can read that one. But I've been just kind of reading a whole bunch of conversations that have been happening on X. And I believe it was Bambu Lab CEO, Dr. Tao, actually put out a statement. Hopefully that was his name. Hopefully I didn't mess that up. But he actually put out a statement basically saying like he knew this was coming. It seems like the reason that DJI has actually invested in Elegoo is actually to prevent talent from going to Bambu Lab. So when he left, you know, he went and founded Bambu Lab. It was a few people from DJI, but now they're disassociated with DJI, and people seem to think like they have a relationship still. It's completely the opposite. DJI seems to have invested in Elegoo to prevent talent going into their company, for Bambu Lab that is, and so they're investing in Elegoo to try to take Bambu Lab down. Now, when did they actually invest? I think it was recently, but if you look back, Elegoo has already been trying to take Bambu Lab down. The Elegoo Centauri Carbon was actually a campaign against the X1C. There was creators that actually explicitly said, Elegoo asked me to compare this to the X1C. So I think they're gonna do more of the same. It would be nice though to see someone go in, revamp the company. They have good software engineers, and you know what? Boom, they make better quality products for around the same price. Maybe even if it was like, let's just say they came out with a fully upgraded Centauri Carbon that was fully integrated into their app. Beautiful software similar to that of the Bambu Lab, you know, systems with the P2S and all of that, and it was only like $400 or $500. Can you imagine? Like that would be fantastic for people. But I guess you would need to be like $400 because the P2S is $550. But anyway, you guys get what I'm saying. So we'll see what happens of this. And, you know, Bambu Lab did say they've already been kind of preparing for the last 3 years, and they thought this would come sooner. They didn't think it would take companies this long to clone the X1C. Like their oldest 3D printer, people are still competing with the X1C to this day, which is actually pretty impressive when it comes to Bambu Lab's past feats. But outside of that, guys, there's more to that story. It's really just kind of rumors flying everywhere, but it seems like Bambu Lab is actually now, you know, people are coming after them. And when you're the top dog for so long, people are definitely going to come after you, and eventually people will catch up. You can't hold the reins forever. You know, every great kingdom falls sooner or later. But outside of that, guys, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button down below, comment, what do you guys think about all of this stuff happening? What are you looking forward to? And again, thank you to Artie and Flycut for being members. I greatly appreciate it. And you know what, guys? Have a wonderful rest of your day.